Okay, I'm speaking with senior Wyoming economist Jim Robinson. Jim, the November 2019 issue of the Wyoming Insight Report came out just the other day. I was kind of glancing it over, and as a layman just looking at this, it looks like we have some good news and some not so good news. Would that be accurate?
Well, I think so. Of course, everybody's concerned about energy prices, and I think for the month of November, there was some good news there. Oil prices improved, but also the natural gas prices, too.
Now, we are lagging behind in the number of jobs in the oil and gas industry compared to a year ago. Is that right?
We're starting to see a little bit of a weakening there. For the most part of 2019, jobs were fairly steady. And the odd thing about that is that we're seeing double-digit growth in oil production, but yet the jobs in that industry really haven't changed very much, and just recently started to kind of decline compared to last year.
What's the reason for that? Do we know?
Well, I think overall the industry itself, oil and gas, after they went through the last downturn in prices, the companies that were still in business just became a lot more efficient. There's more automation nowadays, and so less inclined to hire people for jobs where they can maybe save some money, and they just do things a little bit differently in that business now.
And with that thought in mind, are we going to never see the kind of oil and gas industry jobs we used to see, or can we not say that?
Well, I think the industry is definitely changed, and I don't think it's going to be going back the other way. At a time that we saw much higher levels of employment for oil and gas jobs, that was when we were looking at prices of oil that were maybe $90 a barrel, and it's unlikely that we're going to see that, at least in the next 6 months or so. It just doesn't look like that's going to happen. The way technology has changed the oil industry, including the fracking that takes place now, it just means that oil is more readily available. It's more available in different parts of the country, and the same for natural gas as well.
Now, sales and use tax collections showed gains in most sectors for fiscal year 2020. Is that right?
We are still showing, pretty good collections for the state. And if you take a look at the different sectors, that is true. Especially retail trade is really driving those collections, but right behind that is leisure and hospitality. And if you take a look at the counties, most of the counties are still showing year-over-year increases. This is after 4 months of fiscal 2020.
Do we think that trend will continue, or is there no way to know, or how would you characterize that?
Well, I think, if anything, it'll probably slow down a little bit. That pace has been right around 7% ahead of where we were last year. And I think we're starting to kind of catch up a little bit. It's hard to show, year-over-year percent change increases like we have been there. And I think last year was a pretty good rebound year. So I think this year we're going to be kind of maybe not quite as much in terms of that year-over-year increase, but still probably show some gains, maybe more like 4 or 5% by the time the year is finished.
So we're still headed in the right direction then.
We are. We have to take a look at, what's driving all of this. And for the most part, there's still a lot of construction activities, especially in the eastern part of the state, that have to do with pipeline construction or transmission lines as we build out our utilities in Wyoming, and it includes, the wind tower building as well. So some of those things may finish up this year or early next year, and so there might be a little bit of a slowdown in terms of construction related to those activities.
Now, Jim, I see that single-family permits are running ahead of last year. These are housing permits, but multifamily permits are down. What can we learn from that?
Well, I think for the single-family, what I see there is that not really much of a difference compared to 2018 or even 2017. We just kind of leveled off. And those 3 years are pretty consistent with each other. And with the multifamily, that is a situation where these projects themselves, they can be multi-units. And so you might have a big project that comes in with 80 units in 1 month, and I think that kind of drives that story there. So right now we're a little off in October of this year compared to where we were last year. But not that far away, and one more month, November, that could easily make us catch up with where we were last year. So not too much of a concern on my part with the multifamily. With the single family units, we're pretty much looking a lot like we looked last year.
So, Jim, looking at the Insight Report, overall good news, bad news, mixed, how would you characterize it?
I would say that overall it's pretty good. We know what we're seeing is job growth. We're seeing improvement in oil and natural gas prices. We also know that our sales tax collections are better than they were last year, and that has to do with spending by both consumers and businesses. So I think the bottom line is that overall it's a solid report for